If you consider the weightage in GPAT, number of questions from the subject pharmaceutical chemistry will be 38 out of 125, and maximum marks will be 152 marks. So try to understand which weightage around 30 to 35% of marks you can score from the subject pharmaceutical chemistry. That's why my focus is today pharmaceutical chemistry. And somehow I have realized, come to know from my student as well, they do feel difficulty in memorizing structure, memorizing reactions, and some fundamental points. Definitely I will give some clue so that things will become little easier for you, but it is misconception that as far as the pharmaceutical chemistry is concerned, there will be two kinds of a question: direct questions and indirect questions. Now, as far as the direct question is concerned, those which are there in a syllabus, they do ask whatever points is there in the syllabus, like name reaction or some fundamental points or something like that. But actual thing that we never realize, that is indirect question. So sometimes what happens is they ask you a question where you need to apply what you learned. So say for example, in medicinal chemistry, they will ask you about metabolite synthesis, and right, in pharmaceutics, some kind of a solubility aspect, right, in the formulation. Some in case of pharmacognosy, in case of spectroscopy, you need to apply organic chemistry. So these questions I do consider them as a indirect. So even suppose weightage is less for, say for example, organic chemistry, but somehow as far as the applications are concerned, you need to apply that at various subjects, and that's why it has got importance. You can expect large number of questions, either direct or indirect manner. Now, why understanding fundamental concepts in organic chemistry is important, let me tell you. Reason is that I put organic chemistry at the center, and somehow if you want to learn aspects like drug kinetics, drug dynamics, drug stereochemistry, drug metabolism, so you consider these are the aspect which comes in the medicinal chemistry. Drug kinetics means ADME, polarity, non-polarity, all those concepts, they are important. Drug dynamics means how drug binds with the receptor, like different amino acids are there in the receptors, and how your drug interact, by what manner, whether it forms a hydrogen bonding, or van der Waals interactions are there, or pi interactions are there, or something like that, hydrophobic interactions are there. So all this is nothing but the organic chemistry. Sometimes you might have observed questions on drug stereochemistry. Say for example, I'll give the example of thalidomide, right? We know that one particular isomer is sedative and other one is known for a teratogenic effect. So this is what I do consider this as a applied questions, right? So if you become learned of stereochemistry and organic chemistry, you have to apply that in medicinal chemistry, say for example. Then drug metabolism. So you might have seen they do ask sometime metabolite, or they might ask about active metabolite or probable metabolite of a drug in the examination. So there are two phases of reactions, metabolism, that is phase 1 reaction and phase 2 reaction. So phase 1 are nothing but they are the reaction where handle formation occur, like hydroxylation, oxidation, reduction. So some polar group might be introduced that might be useful for enzymes which will catalyze the phase 2 reactions, that is conjugation reaction, that is sulfate conjugation, glucuronide conjugation, and all. So likewise, and here again I do consider this is the pure chemistry. Then phytochemistry, chromatography, right, and organic spectroscopy. We it's literally you need to apply concepts of organic chemistry over here. In phytochemistry, you learn different constituents, the structures, kind of a nucleus present, kind of a ring system present. Then sometime again isomerism, then stereochemistry you need to apply over there also. Chromatography, polar, non-polar, and affinity, right? Stationary phase, mobile phase. So all these are nothing but there you need to apply what you learned of organic chemistry. So we cannot say organic chemistry is not having importance, right? And if you want to understand, like for certain drug receptor, drug excipient interaction, like for certain formulation aspects, right? Depending upon, you might have seen questions on vitamins and their based upon their solubility and formulation consideration, right? So there you literally you have to apply organic chemistry. Then organic spectroscopy like IR, then NMR, mass. Literally in NMR and mass or IR, you have to apply organic chemistry. So for example, in mass fragmentation pattern, we do we do apply their organic chemistry based upon the stability of a fragment, and that stability will be governed by certain electronic effects like inductive effect, resonance effect, and sometimes hyperconjugation. So altogether, understanding organic chemistry and the fundamental is very much important. Now I'll just give you a simple example of electronegativity. I have written in front of that relevance. Means what? If you learn electronegativity, it is related to inductive effect. Means you cannot learn inductive effect, right? You cannot apply inductive effect in deciding the acidic nature of carboxylic acid or reactivity of certain reagent like alkyl halide and all. Then stability aspect, you cannot decide stability of intermediate or something like that. You might have learned that tertiary carbocation is more stable. So why it is more stable? It is because of inductive effect, right? And how you will apply inductive effect if you become learned of electronegativity. And then sometimes you get the question, they do provide you structure and they ask you which part is acidic, which part is basic or something like that. So in most of the cases, you need to apply this. Now in front of you, periodic table is there, which is little modified, and this is not a correct idea to modify periodic table, but somehow I have noticed students are somehow ignorant in understanding periodic table or something like that, and somehow I have erased some of the elements intentionally, and I have put only those which we do require frequently. Right? This is wrong. I do understand, but somehow for sake of simplicity I have done this, right? If you observe like hydrogen, then sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and like boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. Once we write fluorine, we know other halogens are there like chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Medicinal chemistry, you just understand. I have written some points in black color, then some points which are there in solid red box, and then some which are there in left hand side which are there. That is the key points in studying medicinal chemistry. Do understand some points are there which are written on extreme of right hand side and they are there in a black color. Now what I written here, movement of electron in the bond, means I'm talking about some concepts like electronegativity, inductive effect, right, and somehow resonance. So what I'm saying is you learn these points like electronegativity, inductive effect, hydrogen bonding, van der Waals interaction, pi stacking interaction, and then stereochemistry, particularly configuration, conformation, reactants, intermediate, and their chemistry, means which are the reactants. So reactants are nucleophilic, electrophilic, free radical, means their chemistry, which one is stable or when it will become stable, under what circumstances it becomes stable or how it will become stabilized. Intermediate means carbocation, carbanion, then free radical, then carbene, nitrines, right, and their chemistry. So now what will happen if you learn these? What will happen? I'll just give a small example. If you become learned of electronegativity and inductive effect, you will be able to decide whether the bond is polar, non-polar, and then you will be able to decide solubility of a particular compound. If you become learned of these, you will be able to give thought on some of the aspect of a drug, that is absorption, distribution, right? So we know that these are the points which are based upon polar and non-polar nature of the drug, and somehow you will become learned of drug kinetics, right? So merely this is impossible to memorize each and every aspect of suppose 1,000 drugs which are there in your syllabus. That's why your basics will save you in that particular aspect, right? So now I was talking about direct questions. So what you can do is this is again a common query from the student: how do I memorize all the reaction? So you have to develop your own logics. What you can do is, suppose there is an example of a topic that is rearrangement reaction. So what you do is you can group these rearrangement reaction under like certain headings. So now you will be able to see all the reactions are there, almost all, not all, and they are there on at a glance and in one shot. Now what will happen? This will save your time if you are revising or if you are somehow going for the exam before that, right? So rearrangement, what I have done, rearrangement reaction, RR means rearrangement reaction to electron deficient carbon. Try to understand, right? Now what I have done here, I have just shown here how rearrangement occurs so that group will migrate to electron deficient carbon, that is carbocation, and I have written here example pinacol rearrangement and benzoic acid rearrangement. Now try to understand what I am doing here. I am actually giving you a mechanism how pinacol rearrangement occur, how benzoic acid rearrangement occur. So now if you group like this, what will happen? You will always remember that in pinacol rearrangement there is a formation of carbocation and migration of alkyl group is there. So not completely, but to certain extent things will become easier for you. The next what I have done, rearrangement reaction to electron deficient nitrogen. So in this case I have shown mechanism in a manner that group is migrating to the nitrogen which is electron deficient. Examples are written here: Hoffman, Curtius, Schmidt, Lawson, Beckman. Now I need not to memorize all the reaction and their mechanism all the time, right? So I do know that these are under this heading, and somewhere electron deficient nitrogen will form in the reaction and group will migrate over there. Similarly, I have done migration to electron deficient oxygen. Example are Baeyer-Villiger oxidation, Dakin rearrangement, and cumin hydroperoxide rearrangement, something like that. So this is how now all the reactions as far as the rearrangement is concerned are there in front of you in categorized manner, so that you are in a position to write mechanism, and one of the intermediate will form either carbocation or electron deficient nitrogen or electron deficient oxygen, and then group will become migrate on that. Second thing what you can do is you can write names of reaction, right? Then pinacol rearrangement, say for example what I have written here, diol gets converted to ketone or aldehyde. So in one sentence what I have done, I am trying to memorize this reaction, right? So what is pinacol rearrangement? Earlier I have seen, I have shown you that here electron deficient carbon will form and their alkyl group will migrate. Now what I have written here, diol group get converted to ketone or aldehyde. Now you have to understand in the this particular reaction, diol is an starting material and product will be ketone or aldehyde, something like that, right? And if you write a general example in front of that, what will happen? Now in earlier slide we have learned that mechanism wise how we can memorize, and now here all the reactions are there along with their starting material and final product, and with the example in generalized manner you can memorize all the reaction. So definitely, I told you there is no alternative to the hard work. Just by counseling you cannot survive. You need to put your efforts on your own, and either you follow logics or strategies what I'm giving you, or even you can develop your own strategies which might be more easier than what I'm putting in front of you. But somehow you can you need to take efforts, and at one place you try to put all the information, somehow then things will become easier for you. Then as far as the books are concerned, this is again a commonly asked question. Student, they do ask which book shall I refer. Now these are the two books, there is no alternative. That is more for learning organic chemistry, that is Moyes and Boyd and Jerry March. But somehow considering time or some time, for the first time, right, those who are there in very earlier phase like first year and second year, I always do ask them to start reading from this book, right, so that you have ample time. Instead of focusing on sessional and university exam, you go on developing your own basics, right? But suppose if you are using some other book, right, no issue, just verify whatever information you are reading over there, get it verified from these two books, right? And let me tell you, answer to question of student which book is good, let me tell you, the book which make you subject read, right, the book which increase your interest in reading that particular subject is good book for you, whomsoever book, right? So that book, if that book is making you read that particular subject, then that book is good for you, right? Whatever may be the name, whatever may be the author, whatever may be the publication house, but somehow you need to get the information what you are reading verified through this, right? And these are I already said, there is no alternative, there is no good book than these two. Then next it comes, that is how to do in medicinal chemistry, right? If you talk about the medicinal chemistry, first thing I will tell you, it is overlapping, that is medicinal chemistry and pharmacology. Most of the aspect, that is mode of action, and sometimes classification and metabolic fate, right? So these are overlapping point in medicinal chemistry and pharmacology. You need not to say differently or separately study mode of actions and classification of drug, but of course in medicinal chemistry, most of the time classification, if it is based upon chemical structure, then that is in different manner you need to study, right? And sometimes classification is there on how drug produce their action, that is based upon the pharmacological effect, right? Now structures, synthesis, metabolic fate, and mode of action. So these are the 5 areas you will find question are there in either GPAT and NIPER, right? So rarely classification, right? Structure, most of the time they do ask about the synthesis, like they do ask you starting material in synthesis, they do ask you metabolite, one of the metabolite they will put in front of you, they will put in front of you 4 different options and they will ask you which is the probable metabolite or something like that. And then I have written here mode of action or actions. Some drug they do have multiple mode of actions. Try to understand. I'm going to discuss this with the help of example. And believe me, those drug they do have altogether different mode of action, or somehow they do have multiple mode of action. They generally it is quite possible that question will be there on those, right? So now we'll see how to learn medicinal chemistry, or what strategies we can develop or we can use. Now first thing what you do is, if I'm giving the example of CNS drugs, right? So drugs acting on the central nervous system. Now what happened is, you generally, there are n number of books are there for studying pharmacology and medicinal chemistry, and different terms are there, like that sometime develops some kind of a phobia in minds of a student, like for example anxiolytic, some books will use the term anxiolytic, some will use minor tranquilizer or something like that. So what you do is, if I say for example CNS drug, you just go on classifying different classes of agent which are there. So for example what I have done here, CNS depressant, CNS stimulant. Now go on listing anxiolytic, sedative, hypnotic, antipsychotics. Then in CNS stimulant, analeptics, antidepressants, something like that. Then in one word or in minimum words you try to define that what is that. That is anxiolytic means what, sedative means what, right? This is how you have to begin, right? And antipsychotic means what. Then what I have done, I have tried to write alternative term for each and every. So for example antipsychotic, they are alternatively called as neuroleptics, they're also called as major tranquilizer. So what will happen in doing so, what is happening is, whatever may be the term, whatever may be the terminology you are coming across, it is not going to distract you from studying that particular topic, right? So this is how you have to begin. Then what you do is, generally you put the habit to summarize your SAR. Now this is immaterial what is there in front of you currently. This is an one of the ACR in front of you. I hope you will understand what is there, right? So now what I've done, I try to pinpoint key points, right? So these are malonyl urea derivatives, right? So biobutyric acids are there, and it is well known fact that 5,5-di substitution is required. Now what I have done, I wrote here all the key points which are there in a SAR. Then nature of R, or nature of substituent on N, nature of O if you go on replacing with sulfur, right? So what is happening here, if you memorize or if you chalk out the summary of SAR, things like all the structure will somehow you will somehow you are revising your structure and you get the information what is that feature which is essential for the activity. Suppose I have written here O. So if you replace O in malonyl urea by S, what will happen? Lipophilicity increases. So now thiopentyl sodium, it is more lipophilic. This is how you can memorize. And most important thing you can observe here, urea portion is there, right? So urea and malonic acid is there, right? So that's why they are called as malonyl urea. Now if you come across the question in the exam, like if they are asking about some question based upon ACR, based upon the structure, you will be able to easily solve over here. Second thing, you will be able to solve question based upon synthesis. Now there is only one step, that is condensation, that occur between urea or substituted urea, right? So depending upon what structure, suppose they ask you synthesis of thiopental, so you have to understand, instead of taking urea you need to take thiourea, right? And suitable malonyl ester derivative, right, depending upon r nature of r and r dash which is there on 5. So I'll give you one more example of diazepam, right? Now, if you think of ACR, right, we know that it is wait, it is something that is 7 position chlorine is important, right? At 5 position phenyl is important, and unsaturation between 4 and 5 is important. Now, what happens sometime? These are the key point, right? Now, what happens sometime? They do ask you the IUPAC name of a drug, right? And say for example, if they are asking you what is the IUPAC name of a diazepam, so now if you become learned of ACR, you know the key points. At 7 chloro is required, at 4 5 unsaturation is required, at 5 phenyl is required, and name itself is explanatory, that is benzodiazepine, means what, benzene ring is there and diazepine is there. So now what you do is, instead of reading it as a benzodiazepine, you read it as benzo 1,4-diazepine. Means what? Now you are getting an idea that at position 1 and 4 two nitrogens are there. Diaza means what? Two nitrogens are there. Now from different combination you try to see whether a 7 at 7 position, any one option is there at in the given options where chlorine is there at 7 position. If it is there, okay, you go ahead, then check at 5 phenyl is there or not, then check unsaturation is there at 4 5, then check at 1 4 two nitrogens are there. So this is how, like 7 chloro 1 methyl, right, 5 phenyl 1 4 benzodiazepine. Try to understand. In this case you need not to memorize IUPAC names of all the drugs if your ACR is good, right? Now if even you go and check earlier question paper, many a time they do ask question on diazepam, either IUPAC name or like sometime synthetic route. Now you just observe what I am highlighting. I'm highlighting this phenyl ring and nitrogen, right? So here if I highlight this will be one of the starting material for the synthesis. Why? Because somehow you can see condensation is occurred between carbonyl carbon and nitrogen, right? So great chances are there one of the starting material will be the one that will contain phenyl ring and nitrogen. So nitrogen will be there either in the form of a nitro group or aniline. So this is how synthetic route is there. So parachloroaniline, right? So if you just memorize structure or SAR and IUPAC name, then easily you can solve the question even based upon synthesis. You need not to memorize all the steps in the synthesis. You just check in option where it is parachloroaniline is there, because this is what it is reflective over here, and then you can easily solve question based upon synthesis also. But let me tell you, this does not work every time, right? So that's what I already made mention. You need to put efforts, but somehow it will reduce your phobia of learning medicinal chemistry. That is what I can promise you. And strategies or logic and basic organic chemistry, if you go on applying, then things are going to become easier for you, and then somehow great chances are there you will grab all the marks based upon this particular subject. Then somehow how to start understanding topic, right? I'm giving an example of anti-epileptic drug. Again, different terminologies are there: tonic seizure, clonic seizure, atonic seizure, myoclonic seizure, right? And they do ask you which is the drug used for treating clonic seizure, right? So if we not become learned of this, then things will become difficult for us. Now visual give a better impact than the words. Now two childs are there in front of you, they're undergoing epileptic episode, I'm saying. So now we just try to understand meaning. Tonic means what? Tone, like we do say body tone. So constant contraction of muscles, sudden suffering of the body, arms, legs. So just go on observing in tonic what is happening here. So for example, clonic, rhythmic jerking movement of arms and legs. This is what it is there. So jerking movement of arms and legs. So if you try to correlate with some of the figure, you can take help of internet over there and do correlate, so that things will become easy for you, right? Atonic means there won't be a no tone. So this is what sudden loss of muscle activity or tone, right? And this is how you can understand different terms and their meanings, right? Now, mode of action. Now, you put habit of studying mode of action in the form of receptor where they do bind, right? So phenytoin is now how it works as far as the anti-epileptic action is concerned, right? It somehow it acts by blocking the voltage gated sodium channel. So now what does it mean by sodium channel is? Channel means these are small pores which are there in the cell, by which like specifically sodium in hydrated form will undergo, right? Because there will be a fluid, and sodium in hydrated manner, it has got a specific radii, right? It has got specific size, and there are certain proteins are there, right, which allow passage, or hole in them is only such that it allow only passage of sodium in hydrated form, and that's why these channels are called as sodium channel. So what is happening now, if you observe diagram, what is happening over here, it is very easier for you to understand like how drug acts. So suppose this is a sodium, when the channel is open, right, it is going inside the cell, and somehow when it is become closed, what will happen, sodium will not go inside it. Now your phenytoin, it binds in hypothetical inactivation gate receptor on the voltage gated sodium channel. So somehow sodium bind over here, it avoid entry of sodium, and that's how it is going to produce action. Now what I have done here, I have wrote the names of all the drugs which acts by this mode of action, that is carbamazepine, phenytoin, lamotrigine, and valproate. Believe me, valproate is the one, it has got multiple mode of action. It acts by almost all the mode of action what it is essential for showing the anti-epileptic effect. Now what you can do is, you can again study how exactly phenytoin binds. It binds like two carbonyl groups are there, right? They do form a hydrogen bonding with the amino acid which are there in the sodium channel. So why only phenytoin and why not any chemical compound binds over there? Reason is these two carbonyl group, they are there at some specific distance and conformation and configuration, so that they interact with the hydrogens of amino acid which are there in receptor, and that's why they do interact and it elucidates the action. So you might have learned of the fact that you cannot increase substituent on phenyl ring beyond certain limit, otherwise it won't bind, because this is how there is a less space available. You cannot go on increasing the group on phenyl ring after a certain extent. Now if you learn mode of action in this manner, what will happen, you easily you will be able to correlate your ACR points what you have learned. So whatever ACR you learn over there, you try to apply over here, right? Then what will happen, there will be a concrete between ACR and mode of action. Now I told you there are some drugs, they do have multiple mode of action. So what you can do, I listed out all the three possible mode of actions of a drug by which they show anti-epileptic action, that is via GABA receptor, by sodium channel, and by somehow by interfering the calcium ions. So now there are certain drugs which are highlighted by different color. For example, valproate, it acts by all the three possible mode of actions. So now what is that? All the drug, try to understand what I have done here. All the drugs are there in front of you, which along with their mode of action. Now comparatively you can understand valproate is the one which acts by all the possible mode of action. Now what an examiner will do, generally he asks about the valproate, which is that they will ask how valproate show anti-epileptic action. They will show via GABA receptor, via blocking the sodium entry, via blocking the calcium entry, or something like that. And somehow we may read during learning by sodium channel, by GABA, or by calcium, and then we do commit mistake. But there will be a fourth option in this case, by all the three mode of action valproate act, right? Say for example topiramate, it is there in blue color, it acts via, it has two mode of action, and accordingly you can expect question on this. And you just check even last year's question paper, there was a question on mode of action of anti-epileptic drugs. Then somehow, as far as the adrenergic is concerned, I took this particular SAR in earlier my class. You also you can refer that, right? Now understanding chemical structure and SAR is very important or key factor, right? Now try to understand for sympathomimetic activity what it is required, that is beta phenyl ethylamine. So phenyl at beta position, and this is ethylamine, right? And first carbon to which nitrogen has become linked or amine group is become linked is alpha, and second one is beta. So at beta it is phenyl, that's why beta phenyl ethyl. So duration of action will be affected if your structure known to contain catechol nucleus. So for this purpose, most of the drugs are there which do contain dihydroxy present at 3 and 5 position, because they do not undergo metabolism by COMT, and that's why they will have long duration of action. That is what I have written here. Now what happens in the exam, they ask you so and so drug is it may have long duration of action, and what they are asking you, instead of memorizing duration of action of all the drug, you just try to visualize the structure of that particular drug. If OH group is there at 3 and 4, definitely that drug will have shorter duration of action because it is a substrate for enzyme catechol O-methyl transferase. This is how. Then second thing, like nature of R1 and R2 is important. There are two receptor, alpha and beta receptor. Now if R1 is larger in the size like isopropyl or tartar, because the catalytic site of alpha receptor is very small, and then drugs having larger alkyl group on the nitrogen or on the amine rather, I must say, it will be able to bind only to the beta receptor. So what we can say, it will have a beta selective action. Now wherever beta receptors are located in the body, you just find out which are those vital organs which will become affected, that is halt, right? So this is how you can correlate between pharmacological action, receptor where it is going to bind, right? And from the structure itself we can decide. Suppose in your structure R is a small, say for example methyl or ethyl, you have to understand that drug is non-specific, it will bind to both alpha and beta receptor. If it is larger in the size, it will be specific for beta receptor. So that is called as the receptor selectivity. And when you read SAR, generally we what we observe is student, they do become ignorant of memorizing or understanding points in which are there in SAR. But whatever points are there in SAR, if you become if you read them carefully, you will get the idea about the receptor specificity or something like that, and then ultimately the therapeutic value or medicinal importance or pharmacological value of that particular drug. Now what will happen, they will put example of a drug, right? Say for example metoprolol. Now how to memorize this, I'm telling you. First thing, you will observe OH group is there at 3 and 5 position, so it is not going to metabolize by COMT, catechol O-methyl transferase, right? So less metabolism, duration of action is high. That is what I written here. Then second thing, here isopropyl group is there, so larger in size, it won't bind to the alpha receptor, it will bind to the beta receptor. That's why increase beta activity. Now you observe these two OH groups, they are there at meta position to the side chain. This is the ethyl amine side chain, right? And to this side chain they are at meta position, so to indicate that, name might be given metaproterenol. So I will highlight meta means positions of two hydroxyl group with respect to side chain. Pro means isopropyl group is there, and it is known to contain OH group and amine, that's why OL is there at the end. Meta means position of 2 hydroxy, pro means isopropyl. So you need not to memorize each and every drug, you just develop your own logic, right? Then similarly terbutylene, you can observe TER, that is tertiary butyl group is there on the nitrogen, and then 2 hydroxy groups are there at 3-5 position, so it is not a customer for COMT, and it has got high duration of action. That is what I written here. And at the same time, because of larger group alkyl group, it is selective for beta receptor, and that's what I have written here. Increased beta activity and virtually no alpha activity. So point is that you need not to do everything. You need not to memorize each and every structure, and you need not to memorize like pharmacological activity or selectivity, metabolism, synthesis of each and every drug. You have to apply what you learned, and you have to develop your own logic, right? Then I'll give you one more example quickly. Like this is an example by which I have written here pharmacotherapy of drug. There are two approaches: insulin administration and oral anti-diabetic agents. So now try to understand these agents pharmacologically I classified into three: insulinotropic agent, insulin sensitizer, and digestion hamper. So insulinotropic agents, they help for pancreas to secrete insulin. That's why they are called as the insulinotropic agent. Sometimes insulin is available, but it is not going to work, and there are certain agents, they do sensitize, right? They are sensitizer. That's why they are called as the insulin sensitizer, increasing the muscle, fat, and liver sensitivity to insulin, right? And some agents are there, they affect breakdown of a carbohydrate what we have during a meal, and in the stomach itself, and enzyme they inhibit is alpha glucosidase. So they are called as the digestion hampers. Now the names what I have written of the class is in yellow is they are telling you how they do produce their action, that is pharmacology or mode of action. Then now I have written the names in sky blue color that indicates the chemical moiety they do contain. Sulfonylurea, aryl sulfonyl portion is there, after that urea is there. Biguanides, two guanide rings are there, non-sulfonylureas are there. Thiazolidinedione, they will contain 5-membered ring having thia means sulfur and azo means nitrogen, and they do contain two carbonyl group, right? So thiazole diones, right? And this is something exceptional, not indicating the chemical name, but it indicates name of an enzyme which these inhibit. And at extreme of right I have written the names of a drug. Now what this tell you? So at a glance or in moment you will revise all the drugs, their mode of action, their classification in very short period of time, maybe in say minute or something like that, right? Now we'll see about the structure. So memorizing structure, again I'm giving further tricks or strategies how to do that, right? So these are the drugs. They are sulfonylurea anti-diabetic drugs are there, first three, and fourth is ibuprofen, right? Now what did I said? These are sulfonylurea anti-diabetic agents are there. So you can observe in each drug if they are aryl sulfonylurea, so they do contain aryl and sulfonyl, and then urea portion is there. So aryl sulfonylurea, so this portion is common, you can see over here, right? Then you go on reading the names. Acetohexamide, right? So now on extreme of left acyl group is there, and to designate that name has been given aceto. On urea, right, cyclohexyl ring is there to designate that is hexa. So acetohexamide, it is the example of aryl sulfonylurea, where on one side acyl group is there, on another side hexyl ring is there, cyclohexyl ring is there. Now tolbutamide is another anti-diabetic drug from the class aryl sulfonylurea. So aryl sulfonylurea portion is common. Now on one end you could see that toluene is there, right, which I highlighted with the yellow color. That's why to indicate toluene I have written here TOL. To indicate butyl I have written here BUT. So tol butylamide. So tol stands for toluene, but stands for butyl, and amide it is sulfonylurea, right? Then similarly chloropropamide is there. On extreme of left chlorine is there, and here propyl is there. So chloropropamides, right? Abbreviation is ibuprofen, that is name of a drug. Isobutyl, right? Phenyl propionic acid, right? So this is how you can memorize the structures, and if you do develop these kinds of technique or strategies, then I'm sure, or I can promise you, there are less chances are there you will forget the structures. So that's all about understanding pharmaceutical chemistry, and I will rest my case now. I will stop. If you have any query, you can put in the chat box. I will try to resolve that. Thank you.